Yoga is very strange. It doesn't actually exist. Nothing happens. You don't gain anything. You end up where you started. And yet, yoga is actually pretending you're doing yoga. And yoga's over when you see the need for no more pretending. You don't actually find anything. And yet it's the greatest game there is. It's the ultimate game.
Peter, what is left? Stay be open and is intelligent gain form of the thought, and the thought bring you to the action. And
Usual.
There's a lot of we've been in a mental plane in our discussion. That's what it takes to form language. Yet when you say that there's nothing to discover, yet there is a fulfillment of feelings that arise of beauty and love and compassion. All these things are somehow fulfilling. I guess my point is that I guess I'm more led by feeling than I am by my mental endeavors.
Oh yeah, definitely. Me too. All about feeling. Thought is no importance at all. This is actuality is a felt presence. You know, thinking that it's present or not is absurd. It's like it's felt. Its presence is undeniable and it is felt. It is known directly through direct engagement, which is much more like feeling than anything else. That is where discovery occurs. That is where revelation occurs. And that is what shows itself to be infinite and beyond describability. But completely obvious.
by feeling, you mean sensation?
More than that. I mean, experience happens by engagement. And that engagement is touch, contact. Consciousness touches itself. Consciousness touches form.
So what is the feeling?
That's it. That touch. That's feeling.
Or sensation?
You can call it sensation. It depends what you mean by that word. It is what it is. Light is felt. We have this word see, like I see light. But seeing is a euphemism for feeling the presence of what we call light. Thinking is a euphemism for feeling the presence of what we call thought energy. You know, hearing is a euphemism for what we call feeling the presence of sound energy.
I like to use the term beauty because oftentimes beauty is thought of as a thought, or like that's beautiful, or it's just conceptualized as a thought. But there's a feeling of beauty.
Yeah, it has to be. The thought of beauty is what? It doesn't mean anything. There has to be a feeling of beauty for the thought to refer to.
Right.
Or why call it beauty? Why not just call it whatever? I mean, experience is felt. Actuality is felt. Anything that's actual is felt. There's nothing that exists that is not felt. It is felt in its present engagement. You could say consciousness feels, and that's how consciousness experiences. Consciousness does not operate at a distance. When I see you, my consciousness is you. And all of experience is like that. So it's absolute intimacy of engagement. And it's not an intimacy of engagement you need to do or strive for. It's just a given. It's what it is. And it's completely irrational, completely indescribable, and completely spontaneous. It's already the case. It cannot not be the case. A good way, a good way to play with yoga, to play with experience, is to think of yourself feeling the texture. Feel the texture of light. Feel the texture of the presence of light. What does light feel like? Now, don't expect to get an answer to the question. You just pose it and use it as a jumping off point for exploration. What does sound feel like? What does thought feel like? What's the texture of thought? What's the texture of sound? And you explore that these actualities are incredibly rich with all sorts of undescribable qualities that are yet immediate and obvious. And right away, you're beyond what you're used to thinking it is. Oh, sound is an energy that's perceived by the ear and goes into the central nervous system, blah, blah, blah. Sound is this. This is sound. And it's shocking. It's textural. It has impact. Light has impact. Thought has impact. Everything has a dynamic presence that is absolutely immediate, absolutely intimate. Leave it open. It's nice in here. Everyone ever comfy with the air? Mm-hmm.
I'm realizing that I can't know if anybody like online on YouTube is telling me the truth or if they're actually like actors by corporations and stuff. Figure out what's happening with climate change. It's basically impossible.
No one knows.
Yeah.
Besides, there's no such thing, so you're off the hook.
There's no such what?
No, I was making a joke. There is no climate change. Don't use those words.
Well,
That's
when
a
you get
joke.
to a concept that, obviously I don't believe in consensus reality, like we have a government that makes decisions, But I mean, I have no evidence of any of that.
Of course not. And no one knows what climate change is. So how could they tell you the truth about it? Mm-hmm. No one knows what electricity is. How could they tell you the truth about it? Well, I read this text, this advanced physics textbook, and it goes into the equations, and this is what electricity is. They don't know what electricity is.
Is it because it's complex, or?
Because it's infinite.
Complex.
There's no bottom. You cannot arrive at the thing itself and say, oh, now I know what it is. it's like a horizon. It's always there, but it always recedes as you approach it. It does not know what anything is. It knows a whole lot about anything that it can talk about, but it doesn't know what it is.
Well, what does it know other than what it is?
Huh?
What does science know?
You know that if you take a voltmeter and you put it on both sides of a 9-volt battery that's fully charged, you get some reading somewhere around 9 volts according to the meter deflection.
But so you don't know what a meter is, you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what a meter is, you don't know what a volt is, you don't know what the wires are, you don't know what matter is, you don't know anything.
Science is a type of
It's relational, provisional observation,
fiction,
very empirical.
somewhat fictional.
Well, it's not fictional so much as it is not ultimate. They can tell you a lot about things up to a certain point,
Yeah.
and then it's a question mark. And then they learn more, and they can tell you more, but they still get to a point where it's a question mark. And that will always be the case. Science will never be able to say everything because the true condition, it cannot be analyzed.
Is there, do you think there's to say reality to chaos?
Sure.
Was enough chaos would you consider real?
Sure. There's a reality to chaos, there's a reality to order, there's a reality to everything.
Okay.
But what that reality is not what any of those separate things pretend to be.
Uh-huh.
Speaking in scientific terms, you could say that everything's hypothetical.
Everything's hypothetical.
Thank you.
All concepts are hypotheses. You could say. Or you could say something else if you want.
Also,
A very, very simple way of communicating the entirety of yoga is feel the reality of your experience and let it show you what it is. Period. How to do that by doing it. And you're already doing it, so keep at it. Keep up the good work. I'm rooting for you. You're not going to get anywhere, but I'm rooting for you anyway.
I think the thing about the YouTube and the climate change search is like, if I think I know more, I can have like more influence over other people who know less. Power trip.
Yeah, it's a power trip. It's playing games, but trying to manipulate other people. It's doing, and it has nothing to do with the actuality of climate change. I mean, there may be benevolence involved and so on and so forth. We don't really know what it is. Maybe it. Great that there's global
There's
warming.
going to be another species coming over to replace us in the nice.
Sure, well, of course there is.
And
Life is
be
eternal.
much more compassionate than
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Bill's advocate.
You're a dreamer.
Yeah. So I seem to enjoy frustrating myself.
The most popular human pastime. So you're in good company.
Right.
Is it the nature of mind to constantly calculate and?
Yes. Mind. It's the nature of mind to continually try and figure things out. Succeed, but it will continue to try. And when you see that it's doing it spontaneously, and it's its very nature to do it, so it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing, then you're free from that as an issue or a problem or something that needs solution. But the mind is a small event in a vast system. The mind is working here and it's thinking and it's plotting and it's strategizing and blah, 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 doing all that stuff. But how about over here? You know, here's the presence of vision. Mind is in mind, it's not in vision. You know, if you take a sort of a survey of the is called geography of your experience, you'll notice there's these vast regions of different dimensions of textural presence, the presence of the sense fields, each of which is discrete from each other. They don't impinge on each other. Sound doesn't get in the way of light. Light doesn't get in the way of touch. They coexist simultaneously, but they don't block each other. They don't get in each other's ways. And likewise, thought. Thought happens in the realm of thought. You know, we're used to thinking that what we're thinking has something to do with everything else that we're experiencing, but it just coexists with it. It doesn't necessarily have any correlation. You see that thought is a small event in the vastness of your being. Solution.
So does the mind become more quiet after the realization?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Maybe not.
Hmm.
But it doesn't matter. You don't care because the mind is seen to not have any importance.
Is there more sense of a peacefulness because the mind has realized that it can't figure everything out?
The mind never realizes that.
Oh, it never does.
No, the mind is Don Quixote. It's always off charging a windmill. But you see what it is, so you don't care about it anymore. So absolutely, there's a lot more peacefulness in the sense of not trying to struggle with it or think it's an obstacle or something that needs to be solved or quieted or whatever.
But it may engage in that activity possibly as much as it always did.
Yeah, sure, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it has no importance. And with realization, you see that it has no importance. Nothing has any importance. As I said, what happens doesn't matter. And that includes apparent thought, and what you're thinking, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, appearing is of no importance because it does not affect what it is. What it is all that matters. What you are, what this is transcendental. It does not depend on what it looks like, the other way around. It looks the way it looks, but what it is invulnerable. And as you come to see that, as you know that certainty, self-verifyingly and obviously, then of course you get to partake of that knowledge and what it looks like. Hey, my life sucks. Fun, you know. I can't figure anything out, you know. So what? Nothing new. Go have fun. And then you can just relax and chill out and enjoy yourself rather than struggling with, this is a real problem, I have to solve this, you know. All that tension and all of that, you know, urgency and sense of self-importance. Self-importance is, where do I start? There's no self-importance. Nothing matters. But the mind gets all bloated and, oh, this really matters. And it matters. The implication is because I matter. What I think matters. What I believe matters. What I want matters. And all of this stuff. It's all just overblown fantasy. Realization is the cessation of self-importance. Because what's important is the true self, you know, you might say the Atman, the self with a capital S, which is what you already are, what this is. And as I say, then of what it seems to look like. So all the urgency of my opinions and my thoughts and my status and all of that is revealed to be, you know, who cares? It's just a silly game that the mind plays.
Seems to come in waves of intensity, that stuff. So there's times where I can see that and just shift gears, if you will. There's other times where it's all consuming. And I shift gears and nothing happens and still caught.
Sure, everything's always sloshing around, coming in and out of different emphases and different perspectives. But that doesn't matter.
Is there,
Coming to see that that doesn't matter enables you to partake of enjoyment of the fact that it doesn't matter. If you think it matters, then it might seem to matter, but it still doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you're free to come to see that to the extent you can, and then you're free of thinking it matters, even if it's still occurring.
One way of asking the question I have is, what do you think about the concept of bodhisattva?
I think it's a pretty myth.
Oh.
Sounds very noble.
So another way of asking that is, many traditions of enlightenment talk about compassion as something that arises out of unified consciousness.
Sure.
And compassion is something that you act on, that you feel and generally act on. So it would seem like there is an effect of enlightenment on our daily life, or there can be.
Yes, there can be an effect of enlightenment on daily life, but compassion is not what you think it is. Compassion is humanly is generally understood as an impersonal, emotionalized concern or sharing. But in enlightenment, there seem to be no other people. So that this whole interpersonal sentimental thing is absurd. On the other hand, one discovers the universal harmony of all being with itself, love of the coexistence of all phenomena as expressions of this astounding transcendental actuality, which this is, which we are. And that's the true compassion. And it is certainly acted upon, however it is. Not this sappy, sentimentalized, emotionalized, interpersonal thing that it may be made out to be by people who don't understand what it actually is. A lot of spiritual traditions, unfortunately, are geared for people who don't understand what it is, for beginners, and so the way and the terms in which it's put and what they're actually referred to, which you can't understand until you don't need the spirituality, so to speak, can be misleading if they're misinterpreted. But all terms are misleading if they're misinterpreted. So.
Which makes you misinterpret it.
Well, sure. I mean, if you interpret, any interpretation is misinterpretation.
Right.
And thinking that that matters or trying to orient to it or practice it or whatever is just garbling up the mess even further, if that was possible. On the other hand, if you like to be a generous, nice person and you like to aspire to it and you like to inspire to self-improvement and all that, that's great, have at it. But again, what you do does not matter at all one way or the other. So doing that is neither here nor there in terms of realization and liberation. It's fine, by all means, the world would be a lovelier place if the people were a little nicer to each other. But, good luck, don't hold your breath. But that's not, that doesn't lead to or cause realization. Realization can happen in the most horrendous circumstances. A serial killer could, I suppose, achieve realization. Who's out there, donating all their time and effort to feed the beggars could go through life clueless. Or vice versa. Because again, what happens doesn't matter from the point of view of yoga, from the point of view of realization. Realization is about seeing what it is. And you seeing what it is the same for any circumstance. Horrible is you're seeing exactly the same thing as if you see what something wonderful is. On the other hand, like I say, if you like to try to be wonderful, hey, have at it. Great, more power to you. But that's neither here nor there in terms of yoga.
Don't experience where the person is motivated to pay more attention to the event help with awakening?
Not necessarily, because the true attention that is powerful is not an attention you can pay or not pay. It's the inherent attention which is already being paid in the presence of experience. In other words,
does that inherent attention amp up and go up and down?
No, it's absolutely invariable.
Oh,
it's always on infinity.
Oh,
the knob is broken off, turning it up.
Like the whole near-death experience thing, that doesn't help.
No, nothing helps. But it looks like what seems to happen doesn't matter at all. It's seeing what it is that matters.
So even the breaking the sense of being a personal ego.
I'm sorry, say that again?
What about having the breaking of the sense of being a person with a defined ego?
Well, if you're breaking that by seeing what you really are, that's great. By somehow dismantling it or substituting for something else, that's just moving into another misunderstanding.
Oh, I see. Guess really subtle.
Yeah, subtlety is seeing is subtlety.
Right.
Yoga is the development of subtlety, the development of sensitivity. You're always seeing experience. See it more subtly, see it more sensitively. Really check out what is actually here. And then go further, go further, and go further. That's the key to powerful yoga. The power is in the precision of what it actually is, and that is revealed to sensitivity, to subtlety, to intelligence. And again, it's not, you don't need to develop subtlety and sensitivity. You already have it and are it. You just need to let yourself settle into the sensitivity that you are, the subtlety that you are, which is irrational and nonlinear, and is to be found in the very presence of experience. This is presence, this isness is pure sensitivity, pure subtlety, pure intelligence. But it's not an intelligence that makes sense as intelligence. It's not conceptual or related to any process at all. It simply is, bang, like a flash. That flash of presence is pure intelligence, pure sensitivity. Right?
It's hilarious, all the things people have tried to awaken.
Oh, yeah.
It's like all misconceptions.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely astounding.
No, it's totally astounding. We're swimming in a sea of misinformation.
Yeah.
Human normalcy is complete fantasy. It's bizarre. It's almost scary. It would be almost scary if it mattered at all.
Well, here we are in this room filled with deities, and and each one of these is a practice that could go on for 20 years.
Yeah.
Memorizing every little jewel and thing to do to get to enlightenment.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet they're all symbolic depictions of the very nature of this itself.
Sure.
And so, as always, it's not about plotting process, it's about intelligence and insight. See what it is, see what it's about, and you get the fruit without having to do the practice, because the practice is just a lot of busy work. You can do the practice, and that doesn't mean you'll have recognition or see what it is, because that demands intelligence. It doesn't demand, thoroughness. Intelligence is in a flash. Right away, you just see and you know. And, oh, I see. That gives you the result instantly. It's a short path. See what it is. Then you get the result without having to do anything about it.
But you're also kind of asking us, to whatever extent you're asking us anything, you're kind of asking us to use our mental capacity to dig into a concept or a feeling and really understand it at its deepest level, and then pass that.
Yes, but not a mental capacity of thought, the mental capacity of the inherent intelligence, which is the mental capacity of being itself. It's not something that's commonly recognized as mind. It's mind itself rather than thought. It's the very nature of mind.
Back to feeling.
Yeah. Feeling happens through an engagement of inconceivable intelligence. All of this is felt instantaneously with complete presence and complete precision in the instant. That's a show of inconceivable power and intelligence. That is the intelligence that is engaged. And it's kind of easy because it's already engaged. So you just kind of surf that engagement and see what's there. And then the mind can be analyzing this and thinking all that, but that doesn't matter because that's over here. This intelligence undercuts all that.
I understand that theoretically, but not, I don't feel it.
Well, you are it. Feeling it's a matter of coming to recognize that that's the case. And that recognition becomes a discovery of that. You play with it and you stumble on it. It's not to worry. The best attitude in approaching all this is one that's light and playful. But it's thinking of yourself as having fun with your experience. It's like, well, here's my experience, and maybe it's wilder than I'm used to thinking about it. Let me play with it. Let me poke at it. Let me look at it. Let me dance with it. And you stumble on the things. You have little flashes of insight. And maybe one day it's like, oh, maybe that's what he was talking about. That's interesting. Whatever. Or not,
I get the impression, or my experience is that sitting here and engaging with you is like there's a resonance of the inherent intelligence waking up.
Yes.
Starting to percolate a little bit.
Sure.
Waking up a bit. Do you feel like Nisargadatta Maharaj, be with the I am, be with the sense of beingness itself? Do you think that is a being sensitively aware feeling is also could be a helpful?
Yeah, if you do really that and not a concept of that. Mm-hmm. The sense of I am is this that is here, this presence. Being is not an abstraction. Being is absolutely empirical, concrete, self-evident actuality.
If you were really, as you say, really not conceptually, but really in contact with what's pointed there by him, that's essentially not any different than what you're pointing towards. What you're
sure.
It's the same.
Sure.
Yeah.
Reality is reality, and there's a bazillion ways to point to it, and none of them are, absolutely hold water because they're all, more evocative than they are accurate. But with intelligent engagement, it works. If you do it stupidly, if you say, I am that, the chances are good you might wander around in a fog for a while. But if you feel this presence, this is real. What is this? Sharp, bright. What is this? Then that's letting yourself tune into the actual engagement, which is already the case.
it makes me think of children. A, they wouldn't be able to sit here and listen to all this because they would. But they seem to just know and definitely resist when I try to tell them, oh, you have to do your math so that you can be good at this, so that you can become in some great in a career, so you can take care of yourself.
And they already know that's not true.
And they
already know you're bullshitting them.
Right. And
Sure.
And thoroughly refreshing because we are dispelling a humongous amount of horseshit.
Yeah, and to a large extent, this is about discovering your original purity. At the instant of your birth, perhaps, or maybe you're in the room, whatever historically, but that original condition just, and yet absolutely actual. It's just, what's the newborn's experience? It's
All the time.
the whole, just full on everything, with zero qualification, zero of anything, just the immediate obvious fact. And this is exactly what the goal of yoga is to discover or recognize, you could say, get back to that fact of engagement. Although you're not getting back to it because you never left it. Because all the horse shit is just overlays. But it's overlaid over this pristine, unqualified actuality, which never went anywhere, of course. So like the Beatles said, get back to where you once belonged.
Something like that up there, is that is that useful, or if it is useful to some people, it's because of the difficulty of interpretation, or because of the different parts? It's sort of a sort of central band.
Well, if it's useful to somebody, it's useful to them in the way that it's useful to them, and you can't analyze that in terms of process. It is powerful above all because it exists, and secondarily because it depicts symbolically aspects of transcendental reality. But that's sort of secondary. The main way it's powerful is because it's present. What is this presence? Because it's present, it is the absolute. So it becomes a doorway to recognizing the absolute. Your thumb is present, so your thumb is a doorway to recognizing the absolute. Your thoughts are present, so your thoughts are a doorway to recognizing the absolute. Your confusion is present, so your confusion is a doorway to recognizing the absolute. Presence is the absolute. And it's the doorway to the absolute. And anything that exists is present. Or you could say is present, but the present turns out to be what it is, so I mean, it's splitting hairs. So what's powerful about you is that you are. And that reveals the totality of what that is, what it means, just by the fact. It's right here, this is it. And so that makes it powerful for yoga because, cool, what is this? And bang, right there, you're just go right through that doorway.
But having gone through that doorway, you can recognize all the different parts that are, but you wouldn't in your teaching point those out because that would be sort of secondary, that would be indirect.
Yeah, totally. I wanted to write a dissertation on that. You wouldn't want to read it. Yeah, the readout of analysis is unimportant. It's the recognition that this is not just the presence of absolute reality, but it's actually a rather incisive and intelligent depiction symbolically of absolute reality. So that's like, wow, but it's a flash of that recognition that matters, not the actual. So let me tell you what it means. You know, this is here and that means this and this is. That's just arrogance and showing off, and it doesn't do much. Accumulating information is neither here nor there. What information is about is not powerful. That information exists is powerful. It's in the existence of it. It's in its being that it's powerful. Being alone is power. Being alone is opportunity. And which is kind of fortunate because there's nothing but being. So you have absolute wide open, constant random access.
Peter, related to that, the noticing sort of body sensations avoids, circumvents sort of getting over analytical and paying too much attention to concepts and such. But so, as an exploration of subtlety, you're saying it's immediate, and in the way it is, some sensations and vibrations are there, and what is perceived to be a body seems more as a combination of energies just moving around.
So what about that?
Is that sort of type of stumbling that you're talking about?
Stumbling?
When you said like exploring and...
Oh yeah, sure. Could be, yeah, by all means. The main thing is you look at the body, be with the presence of body sensations, and if you're intelligently with what's there, it will open up into being inconceivability, and there'll be no more body and no more sensations, just indescribable amazingness. So your experiential jumping off point is fine, but you got to jump off it. So yeah, let me feel what my body sensations are. Cool, but that's your diving board. So dive off it into what's really there, into what is present that you're interpreting as being body sensations. Or you can say, I want to feel the presence of light. So here's the presence of light, but that's your diving board. So you got to jump off that into what is actually here that I'm calling the presence of light, and so on and so forth.
Feel that as a question?
Huh?
Is that you pose that as a question? How is the jumping off?
No, it's not a question. It's
internally.
It's a letting go into let it have its way, and its way will be infinite opening. The way of all experience is infinite opening. Experience is continually opening into more. So if you're with anything,
what happens typically, like where pay attention, so it starts in a different.
Yeah, seemingly.
Seemingly before it jumps off.
Yeah.
In that analogy.
Yeah, you're thinking about some resolution, and you feel like you're skipping over to a resolution of what you're holding it to be, and so on and so forth. But if you let go into the texture of it, it lets go of, you don't know what it is anymore. And it's not you're not doing something new. You already don't know what it is. You're already experiencing the open-endedness of it. But the portion of yourself that is doing that, you're not used to identifying with. Probably, maybe. So it's a question of tuning into, you might say, the strata of your engagement, which is continually being with the experience falling away from itself eternally, and it never leaves itself, but it always falls away from itself. You can say you can call it the flow of time if you want. The present moment continually disappears into the next moment. And it's constant disappearing without any ever actual arriving at anything. It's constant opening.
Being with that flow, basically.
I say you already are with the flow. Just let yourself notice that. Let yourself become aware of the aspect of yourself that is with that, and that's the inherent intelligence.
So when you said let yourself be aware of that, that same thing as just sinking into that subtlety.
Yes, exactly so.
It's a very gentle.
Very gentle. It's like a release. It's like settling into a warm hot tub. It's just.
That's very well put. I guess it's more than a conceptual framework. It's a relaxation and letting.
Oh yeah, this has nothing to do with concepts. I mean, we're sitting here talking and all that, but that's not what's really going on. That's certainly not what it's about. And concepts themselves are just another hot tub to sink into. But that's perhaps the most challenging medium especially for people who are not more experienced, because we're so in the habit of getting sucked up into the conceptual content of thought, rather than letting ourselves feel thought as an open-ended energy presence, which it actually is. Whereas something we're less used to being analytical about, we're less used to being indirect about, like sensory experience or something, may be easier until one acquires sufficient skill. Ultimately, it's all the same. Mm-hmm. It's a few minutes to 4. I feel like we should knock it off pretty soon. There's a significant burnout factor of sitting here all day listening to this drivel. So we can, anyone has a last minute question that seems particularly relevant or something, now would be a good time to bring it up. Or forever hold your peace. Oh, good.
Regarding a sensation in the body.
Yes.
If I notice a sensation and I want to be with it, I can't. It would seem hard for me to be with it without some thoughts about it.
The thoughts are unimportant. You don't try to suppress thought.
No, that's what I mean. The thoughts will come.
Right.
Right. Seemed to me, a practice I've done is to ask the question. So ask myself the question. So what's at the core of this sensation?
Sure, that's fine. As long as you jump off the question
right.
And into the sensation itself. Perhaps a more sharp question you might ask is, what is it that's present that seems to me to be this bodily sensation? Something, whatever. But the point isn't what the way you start. The point is the diving into it itself, just without expectation, just jump. It's like jumping off a cliff. I'm thinking that this is, a sensation in my butt on the chair. What is it that's present that seems to be that? And then instantly and you can't say it. All of a sudden you can't say what it is. But it's not nothing. That might be a good note to quit for the day on. I'll be here tomorrow at 10. If you'd like to join me, I'd love to have you. If you've had enough and you run screaming, I don't blame you.
We have to put the chairs back?
No, leave everything set up, but take away anything that you don't want to have vanish mysteriously. Just in case.
Like our minds.
No, you can leave those here.
Oh, God, yeah, please.